The cab pulled up to the driveway and stopped smoothly. I watched the headlights illuminate my figure as I counted out the bills with measured calm and handed them to the driver. There was untold understanding in the brief exchange of smiles and farewell wishes, and the yellow car disappeared behind the house without ceremony. For a moment my gaze fell on the man standing at the door. His silhouette was familiar and yet unexpected. It took me a second to recognize him, Andrew Collins. Surprise and curiosity surged through me as I adjusted the handle of my leather bag and met his gaze. "Hey, Andrew, what are you doing here?" I asked, politeness and genuine curiosity mixed in my tone. I couldn't help but wonder why he was on my doorstep so late at night. "Good evening," he replied with a calm smile, stepping forward and extending his hand to help me up the stairs. I hesitated only briefly before accepting his gesture, appreciating the subtle kindness of his actions. When I reached the top step, he leaned over and kissed me on the cheek, a simple but familiar tradition we had adopted over the years. "We agreed to watch the computer tonight," he reminded me, his voice gentle and reassuring. "Ah, yes. Now I remember," I replied, and my initial surprise was replaced by a calmer demeanor. I turned to the intercom and dialed the code. A quiet beeping sound broke the silence of the still night. The heavy door opened with a faint creak, and Andrew gestured for me to go in first. I smiled weakly, appreciating his courtesy, and started up the stairs. My heels clicked on the tiled floor, and the sound echoed softly in the quiet building. "Were you at the company party?" asked Andrew casually as we made our way up the stairs. "Yes," I replied simply, in a neutral tone. The evening consisted of pleasantries and tedious formalities, and I wasn't in the mood to recount the details just yet. By the time we reached the landing, I was ready to move on. I headed for the elevator, Andrew following at a respectful distance behind. The faint scent of my perfume lingered in the air, a subtle reminder of the evening's events. The elevator arrived with a metallic groan, its dimly lit interior casting uneven shadows that evoked an almost nostalgic feeling. We stepped inside together, and silence fell between us. I already knew what would happen in the darkness in the bedroom with him. I think you too have guessed, my listeners. The trip to my floor went quickly. When the doors opened, I walked into my apartment, tapping my heels softly on the tiled floor. As I rummaged through my bag for my keys, Andrew broke the silence. "And you're alone tonight?" he asked in a low but casual voice. "Yes," I replied, sliding the key into the lock. "My husband is away fishing." My answer was simple, devoid of any hidden meaning. I pushed open the door and stepped inside, gesturing for Andrew to follow. The apartment was dark, but I didn't turn on the lights. Knowing my surroundings, I navigated the room easily, my silhouette faintly illuminated by the streetlights outside. "Would you like some tea?" I asked, breaking the silence with a friendly tone. "Sure," he replied. I headed for the kitchen, my movements purposeful and unhurried. Making tea was a simple matter, but there was something soothing about the ritual. The kettle hummed quietly as it heated up and filled the quiet room with soft warmth. Andrew watched me arrange the cups on the table, his demeanor calm yet attentive. We sat together, sipping tea and making casual conversation. I recounted the corporate party, recounting the highlights and funny moments with a candor that surprised even me. Andrew listened intently, his quiet laughter mingling with mine, and the previous awkwardness between us dissolved completely. "Sounds like a good evening," he remarked, setting his cup aside. His words were sincere, and I realized I appreciated his presence more than I'd expected. "It was," I admitted, and my smile softened. "But I'm glad to be back home." There was a sincerity in my voice that I knew he could hear. The evening went on, and time seemed to slip away imperceptibly. When Andrew finally got up to leave, I felt a prick of regret but didn't show it. "I have to go," he said reluctantly. I walked him to the door, my expression warm and inviting. "Take care of yourself, Andrew. "You're welcome anytime," I said, putting meaning into each word. "Thank you. Good night, Margaret," he replied, stepping out into the cool night air. I watched him disappear into the darkness, and only the faint rustle of leaves accompanied his departure. Closing the door behind me, I leaned against it for a moment, reflecting on the evening before. There had been nothing remarkable about it, but at the same time it had seemed meaningful, and I couldn't explain it. Andrew's quiet kindness and genuine interest made an impression, and I knew it wouldn't be the last time we shared a similar moment. Despite the simplicity of the evening, that connection, that unspoken understanding, persisted long after he left.